Hello, and welcome to another episode of Exponential Potential. And today we are talking about balancing masculine and feminine energy to add value in the workplace. And this month we have been really delving into the power of feminine energy and divine feminine power, and how that can really elevate and enhance your life and in business and in your career. And we are having a really juicy conversation, and I'm with my fabulous, wonderful co host, Claire Oatway. Hi, Claire.
Hey, Jen. I'm really looking forward to this topic. This is important.
Yes. And we're really balancing those two energies. The benefits of that is to really bring more ease and flow in the workplace, help you feel more fulfilled in the workplace, and to create that a really supportive, encouraging, dynamic environment. Would you agree with that, Claire?
Yeah, and throughout this month where we've been looking at divine feminine power, we've been looking at so many different aspects from goddesses to intuition to communication. But very often the corporate environment, the business environment is somewhere where you feel that feminine energy isn't quite welcome. But very often corporates are associated with competition and aggression and power. And so what I love about this conversation is we can start to unpack why those feminine energies are really important to creating long-term value, to creating harmony, and actually starting to delve into perhaps how to blend some of those masculine energies so that you can bring that flexibility in your style day to day.
Yes, yeah, and I think also it takes courage, doesn't it, to do things differently. As you said, that kind of the typical environment, and certainly when I was in the corporate world, and still now, um, is very male, masculine energy. Not necessarily, it is still male dominated, I believe, in a lot of companies, and that is changing. You seen a shift in that, Claire?
Um, Not enough of a shift, and
Mm.
particularly in larger organizations. Sometimes I see the damage that female leaders can cause through adopting overly masculine energies. So some of the power, some of the aggression, some of the force, and it's not an intentional behavior in that way. It's not deliberate to cause harm, but sometimes it can cause harm. And I've seen that in multiple organizations and myself as well. I know that kind of when you can get that masculine side in order to prove your worth, in order to kind of push and get things done and be seen as a good leader, you often adopt some of those masculine aspects, but it can be quite damaging to people around you, or you can be seen as can actually undermine your authority because you can be seen as aggressive or a bully or a bitch, or we've brought a lot of that through. Um, yeah.
Part of that is armor, isn't it? It's like almost, it's almost like, and I'm not sure if you ever felt like this, I'm sure you did, and I'm sure quite a few of our listeners can relate to that. It's like putting on our war paint, putting on our armor, ready to fight another day. It's that kind of energy, isn't it?
Yeah, and we've talked about this many times. It comes from generations of cultures that recognize and value and promote quite masculine energies and masculine environments. So short-term profit, keep driving, keep driving, keep driving. And so in order to um, spring forward, we've adopted many of those energies as well. Unfortunately, in this country, we don't have many really, or we don't have enough strong, visible female leaders that are embodying feminine energy. In other parts of the world, New Zealand or Japan or Denmark or Sweden, you see a lot more balance within the workplace.
Oh, that's interesting about Japan,
Mm,
because that wasn't the case not that long ago. I used to work for Sony, and all the bosses that I recall coming over to Europe, all the Japanese bosses, were all male. And that wasn't that was 10, 15, what was that, 15 to 20 years ago. So, oh, actually, it's a longer time than I thought. Where did that time go? Holy moly. Yeah.
so
Well, that's good
so
that
let's
that's shifting.
let's dive into kind of what we mean by feminine energy and some of the
Mm.
positive aspects of feminine energy for you. Kind of where do you see this come through strongest?
Um, for feminine energy for me is always the nurturing, supportive, caring, and coming from when we let our guard down, when we let those, when we leave the armor behind, um, sitting from a place of understanding. And then the other element that comes through strongly for me, for with feminine energy, is our intuition. And using our intuition as opposed to logic sometimes to make some really good decisions.
Mm, mm, completely agree. And for on top of that, I would say feminine energy brings a certain level of compassion um, and collaboration, but
Yeah.
also kind of one of the words that uh, you haven't mentioned, but I think is a really key one, is around creativity
Yes.
and spark and joy. And so when you talk about those aspects as a skill set, then it's quite obvious that those skills are important to help any business environment or any team to thrive. When you encourage diversity, you bring more diverse ideas to the table. When you encourage people to collaborate, so you reduce friction down and you improve the quality of the service or the quality of the day-to-day operations in the business. And when you bring creativity, you bring more innovation. And at a time when there's so much change, who doesn't need more innovation?
Absolutely. Yeah. Yeah. And I think also the the adaptability as well from feminine energy. So we're not just talking about, I just want to make something quite clear. We're not just talking about females and males. We're talking about feminine energy and masculine energy. And we all have a blend of that. We're all born with that black balance, or with that balance, but over time it gets skewed, so we either go too far with the feminine energy or too far with the masculine energy. And that's what we're talking about today, is to really find that balance where you make the most of feminine and masculine energy. So yeah, feminine energy with the adaptability aspect as well, where we are naturally good, or feminine energy has a natural ability to be able to adapt with change, um, and also a more dynamic in problem solving when we're able to give ourselves space and sit with it. And creativity is a big part of that.
Yeah, for sure, for sure. Uh, And we do have that blend. So for me, the masculine energy, yes, we've got competition, we've got ambition, we've got drive and momentum and presence and power and strength. Um, and kind of some of those are qualities as well that will resonate with many of our listeners.
Yeah. Yes. And the more logical masculine energy, more logical thinking, and as you say, the momentum, the action, take action, action orientated. Um, yeah, so there's a lot of benefits to both. What about the flip side of that, Claire, in terms of when we go, what in terms of feminine energy or masculine energy, what do you see as some of the um whether, I don't want to say negative, but the cons of too much feminine energy, or
So maybe the shadow side
yes,
of
yes, yes. Thank
sort of
you.
femininity. Um, so so you if we look at some of the aspects that we've already drawn through, intuition, for example, has a shadow side, and so sometimes when you bring your intuition through, um, you present it to a table, but it can seem quite vague and esoteric. It can be dismissed as not rational or logical because you need to take the next step to gather the evidence in order to present the blend of rational, not just the idea. When we look at compassion and when we look at the nurturing aspects, a regular a regular feature that we pull through in our episodes is when that goes too far into people pleasing or in terms of kind of burning out through putting other people's needs before your own. It can be an inability to protect your boundaries in terms of your own time, in terms of your own energy, because you're supporting the overall whole. So I think for many women, some of those aspects can be perceived as negative or can have a negative impact on themselves. Yeah.
Yeah, and I think as well, I want to add to that in terms of when we can become quite oversensitive. So we have emotional intelligence, but at the same time, we can be over emotional and become very sensitive and take things personally as well. And I think that certainly leads to overwhelm and looking outside of ourselves for validation
Yeah.
is a big one.
Yeah.
So we're depending on other people to approve of us and validate us, which is, that's definitely a shadow side. So we're seeking validation on a constant basis, the feminine energy of that. Um, I've just been watching Robbie Williams on Netflix. It's an awesome, if you like, it's an awesome documentary, even from a psyche point of view. And it's incredible because there's a lot of feminine energy within him. In fact, there's a lot of masculine energy as well, but there's a lot of feminine energy where he's constantly looking outside of himself, or was, for validation. And even though he's doing stadiums of 60, 70, 80,000 people that adore him, he's still looking at newspapers and what people are saying about him in the news and in the press and on media, and still looking for 100% everybody to love him. So validation can really have when you're not getting it, can really have such an incredible, heavy impact on your life.
Mm.
Um,
I don't want to lose though this aspect around sensitivity and emotion, because I think this is an area that kind of women can be over characterized as, is somebody who's just sensitive, somebody who's emotional, and particularly with some of those rational masculine energies, it just doesn't make sense, and they're so noisy. These women, they're so noisy, they're so bossy, you can't say the wrong thing because they'll end up drama, drama, drama. And we've all worked within teams where there are people who enjoy bringing drama or are immersed in drama, um, and actually, kind of as women, and as a woman in her late 40s, there are kind of other hormonal reasons why emotion comes through for females in terms of that feminine energy. So um, I, I don't want to miss the opportunity to start to help people bring back or come back from this extended emotional state, and to cope with that, to dial it back, because we often talk about emotions and the need to be present with your emotions. That's subtly different from living through your emotions.
yes. Yeah, there's less drama when we create, don't we? We can create a lot of drama around our emotions. So I think normalizing those emotions as well, so that we then don't judge them, which enhances them and makes them more, exaggerates them. It's okay. It's again, it's that awareness, isn't it? Taking away the judgment and allowing yourself to feel something, but coming from a place of feeling more present and grounded with it, rather than get carried away and allow the drama to take over.
Hmm. And being curious about emotion too. So,
Mm.
why is that emotion coming through? What am I being told? What do I need to pay attention to, particularly in transactions or conversations or meetings? If you've got emotions bubbling up, they're cues that your body, your emotional state is reacting to something that's on the table. So, be curious about what that is, whether it serves you, whether it's an ego response, um, enjoying kind of all of the notes on the piano as it were, as they come through as well. But I think, sometimes emotions can be like one of those bucking broncos.
Bucking
So women,
broncos, you said.
yeah, bucking, yes. Yeah,
Yeah,
and
it's a
mm,
trigger, isn't it? It's when our emotions are enhanced. It's a trigger, and whenever a trigger comes up, it is an opportunity to learn and grow, and to see, like you say, to have a look and see what's going on there, what and come from that place of curiosity, as you said. It's
mm,
that's where we can use that feminine energy to then learn from it and heal from it.
yeah, yeah. So we've already mentioned that we have a balance of energies, the masculine and the feminine. Um, how do you think our listeners could bring in more masculine energies through their day? What tips or tricks or skills do you think might help?
I think one of the, as we said before, one of the things is to create. We say this a lot on this show. Is about creating space. You can't change anything when you're too busy running around, rushing around, with a very, very busy head. So, number one is to really create space for yourself and to become aware of how you're reacting or how somebody else is reacting, and come from that place of understanding and compassion, and think about how your behavior is impacting other people. And one of the things that women, but feminine energy, I should say, not women, but feminine energy, we want to nurture. So tapping into that softer side of nurturing and look at the work environment as a family almost, that you want to nurture, but not to the point where you're um, you're smothering everybody,
Mm,
but coming from that place of understanding and looking at it, taking sort of more of a bigger perspective or a bird's eye view of how you want that environment to be.
mm,
So compassion and understanding, communication, really, effective communication is so important, and
mm.
giving other people space
Yeah,
as well.
yeah.
I think is really important in that. And yeah, go ahead.
Yeah, I was going to say in terms of the nurturing aspect, through coaching skills, developing an approach that's quite solution focused, that's looking forward, that doesn't necessarily allow. You need to learn from problems in order to grow, but I think kind of bringing people towards a solution, being curious and asking questions, asking the questions that give others the space to grow is absolutely key. And when we look at more traditional nurturing roles in our lives that we have over siblings or friends or children or parents, um, we know that sometimes we are directing and telling people,
Mhm.
moving them towards the solutions. and sometimes that's from a mentoring place and an intentional mentoring place. But actually, that when you ask questions, when you encourage people to see their gifts, to come forward, to apply what they do well, it can create magic for that person, for the relationship, and in a workplace, for the overall business.
Mm. And of course the team,
Yeah.
the creating that dynamic, collaborative team where everyone works together and reducing the competition. I mean, of course, there is competition in the workplace, especially if you're in, you've got key KPIs to hit and you've got sales targets to hit. And some companies have leaderboards, who's the top salesperson. It was very much like that in my experience. And you can still have that healthy competition, but not to the point where your ego is, taking over and it's to the detriment of the team. Um, One thing I wanted to pull through as well from a what you can do to bring your feminine energy through is to build your confidence in your abilities so that you have the confidence to make these
Mm.
changes and to look at what you bring to the workplace. What have you brought to the table? What are your accomplishments? What have you achieved? How do you positively impact other people around you? And how are you contributing to the workplace? And truly celebrate your achievements. Because the more you do that, the more confidence it will bring you, and the more you'll feel empowered, the more you will feel that you're in a place to make some changes because if you're comfortable, confident with your abilities and your skills and your experience.
Definitely. And, looking at some of the ways that you can adopt or just play with the masculine energies, I think creating the confidence and the strength aspects that come through. So, um, yeah, ironically, things like strength training or posture work does affect how you show up physically within a room.
Mm.
Sheryl Sandberg's book around leaning in, that should also have been shoulders back, shoulders out, and you can see it with some of the kind of masculine dominant, very male oriented styles and approaches. They're very focused on that that strength aspect and physical strength, which you can embody as a woman. We've talked about the Wonder Woman pose and how
Yeah.
important that can be. Kind of hands on hips at times, or if you're sat in a desk, just spread out, take that space. Have that visibility around the table. Put your ideas forward. Yeah, let them develop and grow in the same way a pushy parent would. It's like, here's what I've done. This is what it looks like. This is the team's effort. Bring all those through. Similarly, if you have the opportunity, public speaking can be a really good way to bring through some of the masculine energy because it brings power and authority and leadership and some of those aspects that masculine energy works with and is respected and known, and being able to stand up on stage, it represents a certain fearlessness and charisma that goes with some of those masculine energies, and so maybe explore if there are opportunities for you to do that.
And I think, what you're saying about posture is really key. Because even though you're sitting down, you can sit up. You can stand tall or sit tall, shoulders down and back. And deep breathing is another really good tool to use to help before you go into a meeting, or if you're going to have a difficult conversation, or you're feeling, you want to feel more empowered and to tap into your power, just some nice intentional deep breathing to slow down those adrenals and ground you and get present. So actually, while you're talking about speaking, Cindy Ashton did an amazing talk about speaking from your power a couple of months ago. And then the recent episode that we did with Thea May was incredible about tapping
Yep.
into your source and being able to communicate effectively, tapping into your personal power and much more than that. So I
Yeah.
recommend you listen to those. The
Well,
other thing to,
I was going to say
sorry, go on.
before we go off the communication one,
Yes,
sorry,
yes,
one thing you may not know is that Thea actually was in the room but stood up. She stood up on the virtual stage, as it were. And the energy that you can bring to your communication, particularly when you're online, when you're stood up, is quite different. You're automatically grounding yourself. You're very often upright. You're very often, feet hip widths apart when you're at a standing desk or, in that situation. And certainly when I present within a room environment, if I can, I will stand up because it brings more presence. It brings more um, posture, pose, strength, and you can feel that come through your body personally, as well as see how others respond to it.
yes, yeah. And if you are, if you can't stand up, you can still ensure that your feet are firm, both feet are firmly planted on the ground,
Yeah,
and presence yourself to that, because that is grounding, which will
yeah,
calm you and help you feel more in the
mm,
moment. And so, and by focusing your mind also on how your posture is and how your breathing is, you're stopping your mind from racing as well. You're quietening the mind and breathing. When you deep breathe intentionally through your diaphragm, it has a physiological effect, on you're literally massaging your adrenals as you breathe. So it helps reduce the cortisol and adrenaline, and actually, creates, oh my goodness me, it's gone. The hormone, the feel good hormone, one of the feel good hormones. Um, so it helps you really calm and feel grounded. Just a few deep breaths. Um, I think one other thing I want to mention about when you want to create, if you are going into a big meeting, an important meeting, or you're on stage, or you're having a conversation, doing a presentation, whatever it may be, and you can use this in your personal life as well, is to visualize the outcome. If so actually taking a few minutes before you even go in or have that conversation, and sit and set an intention and visualize how you want that conversation or meeting or presentation to go. It's really powerful because you're setting your brain, from a neuroscience point of view, you're setting your brain up for success by doing that.
yeah, yeah, yeah. Indeed, indeed. It's it's remarkable, really, and when we have this conversation, I think at times we take different roles and bring different energies, and certainly with some of our guests, the notes that we play definitely reflect the guests that we have as well. Um, and before we leave the episode, kind of, I just want to see if there's ways that we can recap to create the safety for people to bring femininity, especially women to bring femininity. We've talked about the whole range of femininity, and the when it goes too far, kind of that shadow side. We've talked about the masculine side. How can we create a sense that it's safe to show up as to bring those feminine energies to the workplace?
I think it's focusing on the benefits of what happens when you do that. And you're coming from a place of power, not feeling the not feeling disempowered.
Mm.
I think it's important that it's not focusing on you and how it's going to make you feel, because it is uncomfortable when you do something new. It's focusing on how you're going to impact others. And it's not through telling, it's through being. So by you just being that person and start to change your behavior, other people's behavior will start to change too. And talk, can have talk about it. Talk about that especially as a leader, that you want to create a different environment, that you want to have a positive impact on every person that's working with you, within your team, within the people that you work with your peers, with your colleagues. Communicate, open it up. And to have the courage to do that is to really focus on the benefits and how it's going to impact the workplace. And I don't know, maybe get HR involved. I don't know whether that, you know what I mean, if that's, or speak to somebody that's in another leadership role. So collaborate with other people in the business that have a similar mindset to you,
Yeah.
so that you're not doing it by yourself.
And certainly that aspect of it's not it's not really about you.
No.
It's like that affects so many aspects of your life, but more so than you realize. And
Mm,
when you can get out of your head, when you can get out of your ego and realize that, yeah, the workplace deserves that balance of femininity and masculinity in order to thrive, in order to have value and keep growing over many years. Um, and so it's not you. So who are you to stop that from happening? And by giving that energy out from yourself, you create that ripple effect that comes back, that gives you that sense of safety that you can bring femininity to the workplace. It's maybe the courage to do that, the conviction to do that.
mm.
Mm.
And the commitment, in terms of, look at what your why is. Why would you want to do that? I think really focusing on why you want to do what you want, and making your why and way more important than your own little fears and self-talk.
Mm.
Make that much more important, and come from a place of compassion and love.
Mm.
For, if you're coming from that place of compassion and love, you're focusing more on your contribution.
Yeah. Well, and from a personal perspective, those aspects trigger protection, and protection that you offer to the people that you work with. And as a leader, um, I'd always brought a very strong ethical and values based approach to my work. That did not mean that I was a pushover, and it did not mean I shied away from difficult decisions, because sometimes the protective aspects are around constructive feedback. They're encouraging people to grow. So I love people enough to want them to be their full self. I want to protect an organization to protect as many people as possible rather than have individual favorites. It's about the benefit of the whole. So those protective aspects um, come through as a really accentuated version of nurturing,
Mm.
nurturing protection. And it gives you the sense that you can be hard if you need to be. Can
Hmm.
be not forceful, but you can be assertive.
Yes, yes, assertive, not aggressive.
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
Yes, yeah. Well, I hope that's. Well, I've really enjoyed the conversation. And I know
It's been
you have
mm,
Claire.
yeah. Well, I do so much work around encouraging women, in particular, to step forward as leaders and to embrace their full selves, whether that be learning skills on either side of femininity in terms of curiosity and empathy and collaboration, as well as some of those more masculine skills so that you can have that gender flexibility. You can draw on both to suit the environment and to suit the needs of the task and to suit your own needs as well.
Mhm.
So it's something I love talking about regularly when I'm not talking about AI.
And I think it certainly creates a more fulfilling, rewarding um, environment to work in, a happier environment to work in.
Well, and also creates an environment that is kinder to the rest of the world as well,
Yes.
that kind of embodies community, that embodies ethics and longevity, and in particular around technology, where frankly, we need more women leaders.
Hmm.
That sense of balance, particularly when you're creating tools that shape the face of the planet, or even the shape of the universe in the future.
And
We do need that balance.
yeah, and I think it really does bring in sustainable success because a company is in business to make money, to be
Yep.
successful. And this isn't fluff. It's
Yep.
powerful um, ways of doing things differently to really create that sustainable success with happy, fulfilled employees that are productive and effective.
Yeah, 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 yeah.
Yes.
uh,
So I hope that we've really inspired you to look at the way you're doing things within the workplace, and also this is stuff you can take home as well, and start to be different or start to lead the way through your own actions and behaviors.
yeah, and now that we've given you permission, go back and listen to some of the other episodes this month to pick up some of those other practical tools. Whether that be picking up on your intuition, whether that be connecting and recharging your source energy, as Jen had mentioned earlier in the month, or channeling your inner Athena. You can do this, and the world needs you to do it.
Yes, 100%. So if you've enjoyed our episode, please like, subscribe, and share. We really want to make a difference and an impact in the world, and how, especially with women, to help you as we all rise together and make these shifts and changes. So we appreciate any feedback and comments that you have. And till next time, we'll see you then.
Ciao.
Bye.